Hello everyone, welcome back to CC Group Crypto. This is episode number 5 of Web3 Wednesdays. I can't believe I'm saying that. Episode number 5. That means I've been doing this for over a month, which is wild because it doesn't even feel like it. But anyway, episode number 5, as you can see, back home, back in the original setup, back into the typical pattern, if you will. Not on the road anymore. On the road was fun, but we are back home now. And so it's time to get back to the usual schedule programming. So I don't want to drag on too long in the intro here. One thing to talk about today, one very, very important thing, that is Bitcoin. There is something interesting happening with Bitcoin right now, and I want to show you guys what's going on with it. But in order to do that, I need to actually switch over to the screen, switch over to my PC. And so today I'm going to talk about a major change occurring with Bitcoin. Make sure you stay tuned. It's something that isn't something that's obvious, right? This isn't something that you can just know. You have to go out and seek this information in order to understand and to see what it is I'm talking about. So if that interests you guys, make sure you stay tuned and let's go ahead and get started.
Got Adidas in my bag, gonna check 'em. Members only. Gonna check 'em, gonna check 'em, gonna check 'em. First impressions.
Okay, so what I have for you today is a chart, but not the chart that we typically look at, although we will take a look at the normal charts here in a minute. This is a chart on the website CryptoQuant. This chart is something called exchange reserve. Now I'm going to explain this chart real briefly before I tell you what exactly this means. This is a chart that tracks the price of Bitcoin in relation to the amount of Bitcoin available on exchanges, okay, or what we call exchange reserves. These are addresses that store Bitcoin that is available for purchase, right, or being sold on exchanges. So, why is this important? It's really basic economics. You can almost look at this chart as a supply and demand, if you will, right? So basic economics tells us that as supply decreases and demand increases, that the price will go up. Or the inverse, right? As demand decreases and supply increases, the price will go down, right? So this blue line, this is the exchange reserve line. This line indicates the amount of Bitcoin available for purchase on exchanges over time. All right. Now you can see here, this changes in trends, right? It goes up and down. Why is that? Because there are periods of time where there is a lot of selling pressure, where some of the whales, which whales are people that hold a lot of Bitcoin, large addresses, they pump a lot of Bitcoin onto exchanges, they sell off, and they cause the price to decrease or go down. So as you can see here, these are basically inverses of each other, right? You can see as the exchange reserve is higher, the price is lower, right? The price is the black line here. And you can see as over time, the exchange reserves decrease, the price of Bitcoin increases, right? And so they kind of work inversely of each other somewhat. It's not exact opposite movements, but it's relatively close. And you can kind of get an idea just by looking at the way the chart has trended over time. So why am I pointing this out? I'm pointing this out because there's something very interesting here. You can see as you look at this over time, there is a period right here, right? Back in November of 2020, when the exchange reserves hit an extremely low point, lower than any other point that we can see right here on this chart. This was a very low point. This meant that the amount of Bitcoin available for purchase was extremely low. Okay. Now you can see that once it hit that point, shortly after that, literally a month and a half, 2 months, the Bitcoin price exploded, right? So right after exchange reserves got very low, the price exploded. Now let's take a look at today. Now this is March. So this is about a month ago. They update this every so often. You can see that The exchange reserves amounts as of March, or basically right around 2.5 million Bitcoins. Last time when they got this low was about 2.5 million Bitcoins. Interesting, right? So the amount of Bitcoin available for sale is the same amount as when back in November 2020, right before it went off and made a new all-time high. Does that mean that we are on the verge of an all-time high? Not exactly, right? Because correlation does not always equal causation. That means that just because this happened here doesn't necessarily mean that that's what caused it or that it's going to happen again now. But it is interesting to see that the amount of Bitcoin available is very low. Right now, we have been in this lower trend pattern recently, which, like I said, we will look at the charts here in a moment. We have been in this lower trend pattern recently, but you can see that people are still buying Bitcoin. The whales are still buying. As a matter of fact, I just read an article the other day. 30,000 Bitcoin was pulled off of Coinbase. 30,000 Bitcoins. Who can buy 30,000 Bitcoins? Institutions, institutional money, right? Big investors. So the big investors are still buying. If the big investors are still buying, they must know something we don't. So we should probably keep buying too. Do as they do, not as they say, right? And so I wanted to point that out to you guys. The supply of Bitcoin is very, very low right now. The amount available to buy. As a matter of fact, if something was to happen and all of a sudden people wanted to buy Bitcoin, in large amounts, it'd be actually pretty hard to do so right now. So imagine what would happen if demand suddenly shot up. The price would go absolutely insane. And so these are all possibilities. None of it's guaranteed. But I wanted to point this out to you guys because I found it very interesting that we've reached such a low point in the reserves. And that is going to impact the price in some sort of way. We've yet to see how, but it could lead to some good things. So we're going to keep an eye on this and see how it shakes out. Let's go ahead and switch over to the actual price charts and take a look and see what Bitcoin and the rest of the market is looking like right now. Okay, so here we are back to the charts that we are used to looking at. By the way, I think I'm going to make a video on how to read charts. Some basic chart reading skills. So that way you can go out and look at charts and understand what you're looking at. Anyway, right now at the time of this recording, Bitcoin sitting at 41,300. On the high end, almost 41,400. Ethereum sitting slightly below 3,100 at 3087. So we've had an interesting little bit of a ride here. You can see right here on Bitcoin's chart, I've plotted this yellow line here. Right, this is essentially kind of the support level, if you will. You can place it there. It depends on if you use the dips on the candlesticks or not. But you can see here, Bitcoin's been bouncing off this line really since January. So for the past 3 to 4 months, Bitcoin's kind of been coming down, touching this line and going up and coming down, touching it again. You can see here, we touched it again recently, yesterday, right? We came down, touched the line right at about the 38,600 level, if you will, roughly. 38,500 level. We came down, we touched that, and we bounced. And now we're here right at one of my lovely red lines. I'm actually going to remove this price range for a second. So we're right here at my lovely red line. This is a price level that historically has had a little bit of support or resistance. And so I'm not surprised that we bounced and that we're right here. Right now, we're struggling to break through this red line. If we do not break through this red line, I expect us to come down and touch this yellow line again. And we could definitely fall through. It's going to depend on a few things. But hopefully we do break through this red line, this 41 and roughly 41,500 or so line. I hope that we do break through that line. If we break through that line, then we can definitely see another test up at the roughly $44,000 level. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on this price levels right now. If Bitcoin comes down and it touches back on the roughly 40K level, potentially 39 and a half or so levels, keep an eye on it because it could definitely fall through at that point, especially depending on this right here. This is the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is strongly correlated to the price of Bitcoin, really the stock market in general, highly correlated to the Bitcoin since they are all risk assets at this point. And so it's going to depend on what happens here. This had a falling pattern, if you will, a little bit of a falling wedge pattern there. Maybe potentially breaking out. If the stock market, we really want to look at this 4,600 level. This is really the level that the stock market needs to break in order to really like go green again. So until that 4,600 level is broken on the S&P, I am still going to be very wary of it. Also as well, very wary because inflation is out of control, as I mentioned in my last video, and I expect the Fed to keep tightening down on things. We may have another month or so before they really start to jack up the interest rates. And when they do that, it's not looking great for stocks. And unfortunately, then it's probably not looking great for Bitcoin because they're still tightly interconnected. There's still a lot of correlation between the two. So hopefully that correlation, maybe it'll break one day and Bitcoin can run off on its own without the stock market doing well. But right now, if the stocks aren't doing great, Bitcoin won't be doing great either. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on the stock market, especially tech stocks. Keep an eye on that and see if that behaves. If it does, great. We can probably break above this red line. But if it does not, if we get another knockdown, we're going to come back to this line. And then I am afraid if we touch this line again without a little bit of fun up here, that we could see a crackdown. We could test 38K like we've done here. And if 38K does not hold, guys, it is ugly. Ugly. We could see low 30s easily. Very, very easily we could see low 30s. As a matter of fact, let's see here. If we break 38K, let's say we break below 38K. Yeah, we are going to see 35. It looks like 35. Yeah, 35 has definitely got something going on with it. I would suspect 35 would be a little bit of a touch point next after 38K. And then if that doesn't hold, then you guys can expect 30K. But we're going to hold off on any judgments. We're going to see how this does. This is a very, very important time period right now that we're in for Bitcoin in this formation, in this range. Can it hold? Can it break up? Will it break down? It's yet to be seen, but we will keep an eye on it, of course, as usual, and report on whatever I find. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Really wanted to touch on that. Really wanted to break down what's happening. Wanted you guys to understand that there are some bullish indicators like the low reserve numbers, but there's also some somewhat bearish indicators as well. And so we kind of have a mixed bag. So just be cautious if you're looking for any short-term type of gains or short-term trades. Things could be very volatile and somewhat unpredictable maybe in the short term. All right, thanks for watching. I am out of here, guys. Please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. All of the fun stuff that I always ask you to do. It's free. Doesn't take any effort. One click. That's it. And you help me out tremendously when you do it. So please do that for me. I am out of here. I'll catch you guys next week. Peace. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I greatly appreciate your support. Quickly, here, before you click out of this, I just want to say one thing. Please make sure, if you haven't already, click below in the description. There is a link to my website that will allow you to get a free copy of my ebook, A Beginner's Guide, 5 Mistakes to Avoid When Entering the Crypto Market. Guys, this ebook is absolutely amazing. It's completely free. And what it's going to do is going to take the knowledge that I gathered when I first entered and made mistakes. And it's going to transfer it to you in an easy to read and easy to understand format. It's going to allow you to enter the market and avoid the mistakes that I made when I entered the market, right? I want everyone who's on this channel, everyone who's watching, I want you all to have the opportunity to be successful from the start. And so this book is my way of saying thank you for supporting me, is my way of transferring knowledge to you and allowing you to come into this game with a full understanding of the mistakes that you want to avoid. So please make sure you click down below in the description, get your free copy. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.